So good afternoon, everyone. I'm presenting GMCP Tracker Global Multi-Object Tracking using Generalized Minimum Clique Graphs. This is the joint work I have done with Afshin, Dehghan, and Dr. Shah. So the problem we are solving in this paper is tracking by detection. We have detected people in video frames, and we are trying to solve data association in order to track people in the video. So the traditional approaches to data association, typically bipartite matching, are temporally basically local, where data association is done between two or few consecutive frames. And in this paper, we are proposing GMCP matching, which is basically a temporally global approach. And so it means we are incorporating all the frames from all over the course of the whole video, but we are focusing on one object at a time. So here's the block diagram. We have input video. We have detected human in every single video frame, and we divide the video into a certain number of segments of fixed size, and we use GMCP Tracker to find the tracklets of each person in each segment. Then we are using GMCP one more time in order to merge these tracklets into full trajectories over the course of the whole video. So here I'm first showing how we find the tracklets in each segment. So we have, here I'm showing a sample segment of 6 frames. Segments are usually 50 or so, but here I'm showing 6 frames. We define an input graph G. In our input graph, each node is representing one detection. And we have cluster of nodes basically as well. And each cluster represents one frame, and the nodes within one cluster are the detections within in that particular frame. And so the edges in the graph are defined as each node basically. Each node is connected to all other nodes in the graph as long as they don't belong to the same cluster, which basically means there is no intra-cluster edges, but the graph is complete. And also the edge weights are defined as the histogram intersection between the detections of parts for 2 detections, between parts of 2 detections. So edge weights are encoding the visual similarity between 2 nodes. So we are trying to find the tracklet of one person, which means from each frame we have to pick one detection in a way that they belong to the same person. So one tracklet can be represented by a subgraph. So here is what we are trying to do. We want to find a subgraph, one node from each cluster. So we define a appearance cost for each subgraph. Basically, the appearance cost, here I'm showing a feasible subgraph where from each cluster or each frame we have picked one detection, as you can see here. And the appearance cost is defined as the cost of the complete graph they form. So how to find this subgraph in a way that it forms a tracklet of one person? So we use generalized minimum clique problem. What GMCP does is we have a graph, and there are a certain number of nodes in the graph, and they are grouped into disjoint clusters. So what GMCP does, it picks one node from each cluster, as you can see here, in a way that the cost of the complete graph they form is minimized. So the cost of the complete graph is defined as a summation of all edges included in that subgraph. So if we solve GMCP for the graph G that we defined earlier, it basically finds the tracklet of one person in a way that the variation appearance in those detections are minimized. So here you can see that if we solve GMCP for this particular segment, from each frame we have picked one detection, and in a way that the detections are visually most similar to each other. So what we have incorporated so far was appearance, but we want to incorporate motion also. So we add one more term to our optimization function based on motion. So the way we do that is we define a tracklet global motion cost model. So the way it works here is that for each feasible solution we need to define a cost function based on motion, the same way that we did for appearance. So for instance, imagine we have this feasible solution showed in yellow notes here. So in order to assign a cost function to that based on motion, we find the velocity vectors, all the velocity vectors in the feasible solution, and we predict the location of, say, each node using all the velocity vectors and initial locations in the feasible solution. So we predict the location of each node, as I said, using all the velocity vectors in the feasible solution. And we find the distance between the actual detection and the predicted location, and we call it deviation. That basically means how much that particular node is deviated from the model that we have. So the model we used here is constant velocity because segments are typically short. It's safe to assume that one person moves more or less in constant velocity manner in one segment. So we do that for all the nodes and we sum that value. That becomes our motion cost model. The reason we called it tracklet global motion is that we are using all the parts of the trajectory to predict the location of each node. It's different from the previous approaches where only the part immediately behind or after that particular node is incorporated. So also we have to solve the occlusion problem. We need to have occlusion handling because obviously in some frames the person we are trying to track is not detected. So the way we solve that problem is by putting hypothetical nodes into the graph sheet that we have. So to each cluster we add one hypothetical node. So the way we define these hypothetical nodes is that I should add that solving GMCP is an iterative process, so at each iteration we have one feasible solution. So using that feasible solution, for instance the one I'm showing here, using ransack we fit a model to that, to the spatial location of the detections in that feasible solution, and we identify inliers and outliers to that. And using the model that ransack which finds, we predict the location of missing detections there. So the appearance basically of, like I said, using ransack we find the inliers and the parameters of the model which maximize the number of inliers, and we predict the hypothetical location using the model that we found. So the appearance feature of one hypothetical node is the average appearance of all the detections, inlier detections found by ransack. And the spatial location is predicted by ransack. As you can see here, there was like this person walking and he goes behind the board. So we have a few frames of occlusion, but ransack predicts the location and puts the average hypothetical nodes behind for those particular locations. So we keep doing this in a recursive way. Like we find hypothetical nodes, we put them in GMCP, then it goes to the next iteration, uses those hypothetical nodes, then we update the hypothetical nodes one more time in the next iteration. We keep doing it until the time it converges to one solution. Here you can see we add. Yeah. So here you can see that we have added the hypothetical nodes. In this frame 3 and frame 4, we did not have a detection for the lady wearing the red jacket, but now you can see we have added 2 hypothetical detections, and GMCP used those because they simply induce a lower cost than the wrong detections. So how to solve GMCP? We use local neighborhood search. It's a meta-heuristic method for solving combinatorial problems based on making local changes to one solution that we have, and it's an iterative process. So we use tableau search as a variation of local neighborhood search, but with the difference that it keeps a track of the number of times each element is used, so it avoids getting stuck in suboptimal regions. And so on a quad-core 2.4 gigahertz, using non-optimized MATLAB code, we process one frame in almost 4 seconds. But on proper implementation in C and optimized, probably we can process one frame in a fraction of a second, even real time. So here I show this process for a sample segment, 50 frames from town center sequence. So you can see 50 frames of town center sequence from 351 to 400 here. So these are the detections. And so you can see the first frame of the segment and last frame there and the detections between. So now we apply our GMCP tracker to find the tracklet of all the people in this segment. As you can see, GMCP begins with the random solution, and it keeps, in an iterative way, it keeps improving and improving by the time that it converges to the tracklet of one person. So at each iteration, we show the tracklet that the feasible solution basically forms. So the second tracklet found, and it keeps going, basically third tracklet found, and so on and so forth. So we keep doing it until the time we track all the people in that particular segment. You can see you can see basically conclusion handling in a second also. Yeah, so here you can see that the lady has been entering the view, so we don't have detections for her for this part, but you can see the blue crosses are being added, which means like we are putting the hypothetical detections for that part of the trajectory for the lady. So we keep doing this until we track all the people basically in the segment. So I should add that we form the graph G for the segment, we solve GMCP, it finds the tracklet of one person. Then we exclude those nodes included in the first tracklet, and we solve GMCP again. And we keep doing this until the time no node or few nodes are left in the graph. So here you can see the tracklet that we just found. So we keep doing this process for all the segments in the video. So this is the first segment, the tracklets. These are the second segments, and so on and so forth. We keep doing this for all the segments. So what the question that we need to answer now is we need to merge these tracklets into full trajectories for the whole video for one person. So so the way we do it is using GMCP one more time. This is you can see for 6 sample segments I'm showing all the tracklets. So we need to merge these now. So this is another data association problem. This time we are trying to associate tracklets instead of detections. So we use GMCP framework one more time. So exactly the same way which we found the tracklets, with the difference that each node is representing one tracklet this time. So the appearance of one node is the average appearance of the detections in one tracklet, and the spatial location is the middle point of the tracklet. So there is actually a minor difference here, is that modeling the movement of people in long term is difficult. They don't follow any model. So we can't assume they're moving in a constant velocity the way that we did for tracklets. So because of that, our motion model this time is local, which means we just use the part immediately after or behind each node for predicting the cost based on motion. And also the hypothetical nodes, we don't fit a model to the whole feasible solution. We just use the local model. We have a forward hypothetical node and backward. It's because simply for the beginning of the trajectory, there is no part behind that, so we use backward hypothetical nodes. For the end of the trajectory, there is no part after that to predict the location, so we use actually the part behind it. So here you can see the merging results for parking lot sequence, 6 sample segments. You can see there are little tracklets in all the segments, and now we have merged them into full trajectories. As you can see, like the trajectory of one person are detected, and there are like 14% in this sequence. Here you can see the results for 6 segments of town center that I showed. Here you can see that the tracklets which belong to one person are merged into one full trajectory. So tracking results. This is I'm showing the results for PET's 2001 S12-1v1 sequence. So it has almost 800 frames in it. We did pretty well because it's a relatively long sequence, but we observed very few ID switches, only 8. This is a comparison on PETs with a few other state-of-the-art methods. I'm going to skip this. So this video shows the results on 2D crossing. Here we're showing our results, and this is Anton and Dehghan So in this one, the camera is low, so people constantly occlude each other and there are misdetections, but we did not observe any missed person. In our tracking results, also no ID switch, which is pretty impressive for this sequence. Also, we have parking lot sequence. There are 1,000 frames in it. Under 14 pedestrians, they're walking in parallel, and the appearance of them are very similar, so it's a very challenging sequence. So here you can see the results of that. Again, we did not observe any ID switch in the results of our method, which is pretty impressive because you can see that people are wearing pretty much the same clothes, several of them. You can see occlusion handling for long term, which is because we add hypothetical nodes even for tracklets. When the whole tracklet is missing, we have hypothetical nodes to handle long-term occlusion. So quantitative results, this is for town center sequence. The most important, using the clear mod metrics, the most important metric is MOT-A, multiple object tracking accuracy. We are doing by far the best. Also for quantitative results for 2D crossing, 2D StatMate, and PES 2001, again, we are doing by far the best. And ID switches for these two sequences have been 0, and for PETs, even though it's a long sequence, just 8, which is again the best reported result so far. Here we have two plots which show the MOT-A value for PETs and town center data sets, and these are the overlap threshold for clear mod metrics. So we did this to show that no matter what overlap value you use for clear mod, we are doing always the best. The blue curve shows our GMCP tracker results, and the rest are state-of-the-art methods. And the last one is parking lot sequences, relatively new. So Guangshu's 2012 paper is the only paper which reported results on that. Again, we are doing very good on that, and the rest are the one that I earlier showed. And these are the bar charts of the tables that I showed earlier. We can see that in almost all the sequences, in all the metrics, we are doing better than the state of the art. And